Hey everybody, welcome to Houdini Hangout. We are in the second week of July, and it's Houdini 20.5 launch day. It's pretty exciting. Very fun to get to see everybody's initial reactions to playing around with the new software. It's obviously something internally that everybody at Side Effects is really excited about. So we're really excited to see what everybody starts getting up to with it. Obviously, there's some new features. There's a lot of interesting things. And I, for one, am super excited to see all of the insane stuff that people are going to do with Copernicus. I think that's going to be really fun. It's should be very cool. Hey, Ankit, welcome to the stream. So the idea for tonight is I'm just going to play around with Houdini a little bit, see what we can get into. Obviously, we're going to be using Houdini 20.5 since it just came out. I have played around with some of this stuff before. Other parts of it, not so much. So this is certainly not going to be... Hey, Jason, welcome. Oh, that's great. I'm glad you could join us live. That's really cool. I'm not going to say that I've got all of this stuff figured out by a long shot, but I've played around with some of it and seen a lot of it used, and I at least know some things about it. So it'll be more of a video of me kind of poking and prodding at different things. With your hey, welcome. Oh, Ugorta, welcome. Nice to have you with us tonight. Hey, Jack, welcome. The idea here will be that we'll kind of play around with some new features. I'll probably bring up a few things that maybe you didn't see in the release video, things like that. Hey, Matt, welcome to the stream. We'll just see what we can get up to. I've had a few different things that I've been messing around with and learning a little bit recently. Hey, Lignazio, welcome. So we'll kind of see what we can get into, see what type of, honestly, I haven't really used Copernicus all that much myself, so I'll kind of play around with it, see what we can get up to, see how some things work. I've done a little bit, but not a ton. So we'll see how that goes. Hey, welcome, Neil. Just downloaded 20.5. Great. Yeah. Dive on in, play around. So that's going to be the idea here. If you've come here looking for someone to give, a masterclass on all of the new features, I promise you'll be disappointed. That will not be the case here. Hey, Alex. Welcome. Neil, now Redshift can get updated. Yeah, they're usually not too bad about it. I feel like they would always, I haven't been paying close attention, but I feel like they would always release, like little updates in between, if there was like a production release update for Houdini. So hopefully they won't be doing too bad. Wow, a 960M Helios. Yeah, I mean, hey, you're still I mean, I'm gonna say maybe don't try NPM with the 960M. You might not be happy with that. That might not go as well as you would hope. But anyways, yeah. So if you're here to see someone, go through every single different part of Houdini and all these new features and try to give the best presentation you've ever seen that's just going to blow your mind, this ain't going to be it. But we'll definitely kind of work through things, try to understand some of what's going on in there. Look at maybe the whys behind it and like what's going on and why things are working the way they are. And I'll try to give as much insight as I can from the things that I've learned through the development process, and from internal demos and things like that I've seen, because that's information that's really helpful to get out there. So especially as long as it's anything that I can share that's not not public knowledge, but there's plenty of stuff that's really great information that I've learned through this cycle. So yeah, it should be hopefully I can convey some of that through this stream. So hey Andrew, yeah, hopefully we can find some of those good hidden gems. There's a couple that I can think of off the bat. I know that like there's just all sorts of little things here and there throughout it. Probably I feel like I'm thinking about some things in Solaris that would be there. There's just things all over. So I'll probably bump into a few things here and there and be like, oh yeah, there's this, and then there's this. So we'll see what we get into, all that kind of stuff. So so if you guys have any questions, have anything that you are trying to get clarified, and I can try to clarify it for you, or if you just aren't fully understanding something, feel free to drop those questions in the chat. There's no dumb questions when it comes to Houdini. So it's a big program. There's a lot to learn. I don't think anybody knows all of it, and certainly nobody I've met does. And there's a lot to kind of process and work along with, like through. So yeah. So if you see me doing something dumb that you've already played with, point it out. I don't mind. That's great. That's why we're here for everybody to be able to learn, myself included. So yeah, super happy to have everybody here today. And I guess we might as well just dive in and get started. So let's get over to some Houdini here. So one of the surprising things for me, just right off the bat, as someone who's used Houdini for several years now, when I opened up Houdini 20.5, there was one thing that immediately caught my attention, and it was a really strange thing because I had literally heard nothing about it, and it's one of the first things I saw. So one of the first things that I noticed, and I can probably close this because we don't need this for a little bit, is there's a new shelf tool right in the middle here, quick shapes. And I was like, what in the world is that? I've never seen that before. I didn't remember anybody talking about it. I hadn't heard anything about it. And so I was like, okay, what's this? It's actually a really neat little node. So it's really cool because it's a way to make a lot of really fast shapes, right? Quick shapes. So it's basically like if you were going to do a box or a sphere or a cylinder or whatever, it's a way to do that in a kind of quick and efficient manner. So I can just go like this. I can drag out my box. I can go up and down with it. Boom, I've got a box. Now, one thing you'll notice is that nothing's happened yet, which I think is really interesting. This is kind of a different way of working here. So now the cool thing is that everything snaps to this. So if I click and drag, I can do modifiers and things like that. I can have it from the center. I can hold down control, all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of different modifiers here that'll let you do things, and you can make shapes like this, and I can kind of just draw them like this, and I can do this. So like, yeah, whatever. There's all sorts of different ways that you can do these shapes, right? And you can make different random little things. And still nothing's happened here. This is all just kind of happening in the viewport. And then what we can do is when we hit enter, we're going to get our geometry, right? And now it's made different objects for each of these geometries. And I'm sure the first thing you're going to say is, well, what if I don't want that? And I did play around with that a little bit. And I'm pretty sure that if I just change this here to creating context, and if I go and make a geometry node, and I'll just go inside like this and use that same thing there, we should be able to do the same thing we just did, make some boxes here and make a few of them just like this, blah, blah, blah. Cool. If we hit enter, we'll have all of our boxes in the scene like that. And it does also set that little flag for you as well. So you can now see them all. Even though your display flag is on box 1, we have these all as this, what is the word for that? Selectable template, not just a template. So we can actually still see them as if they were, shaded the same as our display flag. So I think this is a really fun little thing to have. Maybe you're blocking something out really quickly. Maybe you're doing something where you need a bunch of clustered shapes for some reason. You're just doing something abstract, could be really helpful. But now obviously you can just take this and just, click them together. Now they're all merged. We could unhide that if we wanted to. And now we're off to the races here. So I think it's just a really neat way of working. And you can see here that 1 through 5 changes these things. So you can do tubes, spheres, torus, or grids. And you can do them centered. You can turn that on or off. You can square on or off. There's all sorts of different things here. Also, there's an edit mode too, which is kind of neat. So I think you might be able to, let's see, can we, oh, right. We already put those down. Let me see how I could do that. Let's see. Let's do some spheres. Let's do this and we'll do some spheres maybe. What's that? 3. So we'll make some spheres here and I'll just do this. I'll just hold control and make a bunch of spheres. Boom, 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 whatever. They're just spheres. And we'll hit H for this. And now this should be, yep, it's in a mode where we can edit them and we can move them around, do all that kind of stuff. So this is, I think, pretty cool, honestly. It's definitely a different, well, obviously the rotation's not going to really matter with the sphere, but it's a really different way of working in Houdini in some ways, because this hopefully shows some of the ways that we're trying to make the viewport more of a part of people's workflows. I mean, obviously the node network is still super important. But here you can see that we've got all those spheres in here now, right? And we can just, do whatever with them. So I think this is kind of interesting to like at least understand that it's possible to do and just, how it works a little bit. I'm actually not sure if at this stage, let's see, let's do quick shapes. And let's make a couple of these. Just do a few here. Boom, boom, boom. Like that. Yeah, so that's interesting. That's interesting. We get an error there because it's saying in context, but the problem is that there is no there's nowhere for it to put it yet, and it's not going to create a geometry node, so that'll actually error out if you do it like that. So that's kind of interesting to note. If you're doing it in context like this, you do actually need a geometry node to put them inside. So anyways, you could automatically Boolean using this too. Oh, that's a cool idea. Sure. Yeah. That would certainly be really neat. Hey, there's an RFE for you. I think one thing to remember, a lot of times with the development of Houdini is that a lot of the developers aren't, there's I would say it's probably 25% of the developers might have come from like a production background, and the other maybe it's 50-50. I don't know. But not every developer has come from a production background where they know the reasons, the things that would be helpful to users. So that's why that's why I'm always saying, add, give RFEs if you think that there's something super useful that you see, because the developers aren't necessarily Houdini users, right? They're just software developers. They're people that are really good at developing software and understand from customer feedback what it is that they want to develop towards. So really the feedback is always really helpful. So yeah, that's a great point. Like having a Boolean in there would be really neat. So yeah, there you go. That's first little thing, kind of right off the gate, just because I opened it up and, I hadn't seen, like the first time I opened, I think it was once they added in the splash screen, I opened it up at one point and I saw that and I was like, huh? What is that? I hadn't heard a word about that. So anyways, before I hid that up there, just to give myself a little more room, I figured we would look at that. Maybe the first thing to look at would be some NPM, because that's pretty straightforward. I've definitely played around with it a little bit, and we can have some conversation about that. So let's do that. So let's do a geometry node. We'll say NPM play. And we'll just go inside here. What we should be able to do is just do a configure, an npm configure. You can see there's a lot of different configures in here. I'm just going to do the default one at first, just so we can see what comes in by default. And one thing you're really going to have to know about working with npm is there are these compile times, right? Everything has to happen on the GPU, right? So we have to compile these OpenCL kernels so that we can actually work and process these bits of data. Now, I know that there's been a lot of internal discussion about making those compile times quicker. I can't say, like, I know nothing about OpenCL compiling. I know nothing about that side of things, but there's been talk about that, trying to make that less of a time hit, whether it compiles ahead of time or whatever, or saves it somewhere after it's compiled once. Usually within one session, if a node has compiled something, it shouldn't have to recompile it. So that's a good news for you. So you only have that hit really once, when you're in certain things. But you'll see a few different places where that becomes a little bit of an issue, but not an issue, but you notice it, right? So here is our solver. We have our source, our collider, and our container here all wired in. We have a box that's our collider. And this is obviously creating a VDB representation here. And we can hit play. And this is going to, again, have to compile a little kernel here within the solver. I'm not sure how long this one will take. The other one only took a few seconds. So let's see this one here. But yeah, so this is definitely the thing to keep in mind with NPM, is that there's going to be some nice parts of it, and the compile time is not one of them. So that's something to keep in mind when you're working on these things. So yeah, don't expect to like instantly have everything just running at 100% speed right out of the gate. And I'm sure you'll run into different setups where your simulation will run differently based on where that compile time might be different based on your CPU or GPU. I'm running a Threadripper with a 3090, which has not a super great single threaded performance. So that could really be hindering some of my performance here. And the 3090 is a generation old now, so I mean that also is a thing. So there's going to be efficiencies that'll keep happening there. But you can see here, this is just kind of a standard NPM sim. We've got the stuff kind of falling down, doing its thing. With NPM, everything is going to get converted into VDBs for the collider. So if we look inside of here, we'll see that there's this VDB collider that's being created. And that's really important actually for some other stuff that we'll look at in a little bit. But this is kind of the central part of NPM, right? Is that we're using these VDB colliders for all of our collisions within NPM. The source, this is going to be where you set all of your kind of initial conditions for your materials and things like that. So here you can see we've got behavior, material preset, we've got a snow. I believe there's a whole bunch in here, jello, metal, rubber, water, blah, blah, blah. And there's a few different behaviors here as well. You can see there's liquid, viscous, sandy, and chunky and elastic. If you think about all of those, think about those in two different ways, right? The material preset is kind of a way to get this type of a look. It's going to set everything the way you want it to for that. So like if I wanted to go to jello, it's going to change the behavior to elastic. It's going to set my density, stiffness, volume preservation. Those things are going to get set by default and automatically, right, to automatic defaults. But if I change this behavior here, this is just changing kind of the type of material I'm working with. So these two aren't tied together in any way. It's just that like soil is going to be chunky, whereas jello is going to be elastic. And there's these behaviors here. And each of those behaviors, I believe, has their own kernel that has to compile. So keep that in mind, that you will see that if you're changing. Now, so let's see here. Let's do jello real quick. It should have to compile this. It is. So it's going to compile it. And then we'll let this do its thing. I don't think that kernel takes as long those kernels take as long to compile. So let's see here. You don't have the little timer, but probably, I'm guessing this will probably take about 20 seconds to compile this. And again, there we go. That's just so fun. So there's the jello preset, right? Just in that standard setup. So let's see if we go back to snow and just hit play here. Will this go right away? Yep, goes right away. So that's back to where we were before. So we don't have that compile time when we go back and forth between presets and change those behaviors. The thing that will change, let's see here. So if I do water, that's liquid. So this should have to compile. Yep. Hopefully, and they might take different amounts of time. It's hard for me to say. I don't really know, explicitly which one's the fastest or slower to compile. They might be all about the same. But this is sort of the idea of how, how these different material presets and behaviors sort of work together. And there we go. We got some water. But it's not like, it certainly isn't slow to simulate once it goes, right? And it has a nice behavior. And it should work pretty well as far as like the type of, liquid that we're looking for. And you get this nice sort of sticky behavior here too, right? You're going to have a little bit of stickiness here on these colliders, and that is obviously a really nice thing that NPM allows for, to have this stickiness of this collider. That is actually that's actually underneath this material here. So if we turned on sticky, if we set it to like 0.5, that should keep everything there should be a lot more surface adhesion here. And you can see now it's going to drip down the side of it. So that is the stickiness parameter. And there's kind of like a certain, I think every particle that gets close to this collider will activate that stickiness, right? So like maybe even like 0.1 might give you a little bit of that neat, like kind of thin film, kind of all the fluid is sort of stuck to it and then drips off at the end. So this is kind of a neat behavior that you can get out of this, right? This is not something that's as easily done in something like Flip. But for maybe a small, like a medium scale fluid, I might say, this could be really, really helpful, where maybe it's the size of a person instead of, an ocean, or, something like that. You could get some really interesting things. Cheese Shake, you just mentioned that this release feels like the beginning of a move towards making GPU compute just as important as CPU compute in Houdini. Yeah, I think certainly the developers are leaning into that more. I don't know if it's going to ever be as important, right? Because there's certain things, like, I think we're just trying to really leverage that as much as possible, because I think in the past, maybe with a lot of our customers being like the vast majority of our customers at first were large studios, where really it was all about like stability, like as much CPU power usually was from their render farms and all that kind of stuff, and like just throwing that all at it. But now I think a lot of what people are looking for is to be able to have as much power on individual workstations as they can, so that they can, really see what's going on here. Hey, hello. I don't 3D art with the Javad, Javad, something like that. Welcome to the stream. But yeah. So I think there will be more stuff like this. I'm not going to say that it's going to be like everything's moving that way. I think it still is really unfortunate that CUDA has such a stranglehold, not stranglehold, but just that NVIDIA is still like, their CUDA implementation is so good. I kind of personally wish we could use that a little bit more, but OpenCL for us, I think, has to kind of be the case, because we want to keep it as flexible as possible for as many users as we can. So that's why we kind of go with OpenCL. But I think it's too bad that there's so much. Yeah. And in fact, we've even selected to go with optics for Karma, right? Instead of anything that's more open, because it just is so good, like, at what it does. You know what I mean? Like, maybe someday there'll be other things that might work there. Maybe you'll have other choices, like, but right now, obviously that's what it is. So anyways, but yeah, it certainly is that there's a lot more GPU stuff that has been looked at. So this is sort of just your basic sim. OIDN is in Karma. Yeah, it has been in Karma for a little bit now, I think for a couple versions. And I also think OIDN is in Copernicus, and I see Waffle Boy Tom typing in chat. So maybe he's about to come in with that bit of knowledge. He might. Hi, Tom, by the way. If anybody's interested in getting any, yep, even in cops, I was right. Yay. If anybody's interested in some of Tom's work, you can just go to the content library and download it. Lots of new content library things here. But this whole row, look at that. Look at Tom. He just wanted to hog that whole row. So yeah, check that out. In fact, I'm assuming, Tom, that is you doing I'm not sure what you're doing there. Are you doing erosion in cops in that? That looks pretty crazy if that's what that is. But hello, Tom. But yeah, lots of good new stuff in the content library, and you can take a look at it. Lots of fun things. Just texturing. Got it. Just texturing. Wasn't sure, Tom. It kind of looked like erosion in that, so I was like, maybe you're doing erosion in Copernicus. I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, so that is obviously the most basic setup right there. That's the npm solver. Now, this is npm configure. Now, obviously, we have a bunch of npm things we can use. We could set up the source, the colliders, all those types of things. However, I think if we add another one, we will. Each node has its own compile time, I think. So let's test that out here. Let's see here. Maybe the pancakes. That sounds fun. Let's grab some pancakes. So we'll drop this down. Maybe not, though. Maybe not. Let's see here. I did not see any compiling there, so that could be really, really good. For some reason, I was under the impression that there was compiling for, but maybe it goes globally for each time. All right, so we've got some pancakes here. Let's hit play and see what happens. Oh, that's really good. It isn't having to compile. So there you go. If you've already compiled some of those kernels, it looks like it transfers those across all of your nodes. So it keeps that in your memory somewhere. That's good. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. For some reason, I felt like one time I was playing with it, it had to keep recompiling, but that might have been an update that happened at some point along the development, and it eventually kept that compile time. So this is actually highlighting a really interesting thing, is that the more solid an object is, the more time it's going to take to compute. So with the compute time, or with the solidity of, can I do a quick building collapse? Yeah, I'll just throw it together real quick. There might be one. I don't know. I'll have to look at the configure node. But the more solid an object is, the more substeps that your npm solver will have to do. So let's see here. I think we can actually see that, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. Oh, there's our new. Oh, okay, cool. There's a binary cache now. That's cool. Yeah, 20.5. It's out. Came out today. Get in there. Get in it. All right. So let's take a look at this here. So we should have a detail attribute that says the substep count, and the substep count here right now is 230. Up here for this simulation that we were running, you can see here the substep count is in the maybe gets up to 40 at most. So you can see that we're at 10 times the substeps. Now, the reason for that is, like I said, the solid nature of these pancakes is causing that to have to kind of calculate. Actually, I'm going to up my memory because I can. So let's do, I've got a lot, so we'll just do that. I just don't want it to have to recache every time. But so what we can do here is we can see that this substep count is going quite a bit higher, right? We've got it at 110. And there's a few different things that kind of come into play there when you're dealing with that. So it kind of automatically calculates that for you. So this is all calculating and processing together. And we can see that, like, if we just stop this real quick, we can see that we have pancakes, which are in a rubber material, chunky, and the syrup is honey and it's viscous. So we have two different behaviors that are kind of working together. Oh, that's a great question. What does rebuild background grids with OpenCL do? Let's see. So what it said there in the drop down was that this can be a pretty high memory cost for your GPU. So let me actually look here and see if this really does anything too crazy. I'm going to pull up we'll see if we get into some crazy memory worlds here, but I'm Baymaxing Twitch. Try to catch you in YouTube this time. I don't know what that means, Baymaxing Twitch. Oh, you're Baymax in Twitch. Got it. Sorry. I thought that was like a word that I didn't understand. Sometimes I Yeah, sometimes I just am like, maybe I'm old and I don't know what that means. Um, yeah, so it doesn't really seem like that is doing too much for us there. Um, so yeah, there's some different things that we can do. I believe we can, yes. So this material condition is kind of a way to tell it to be a little more loose with those substeps. So I think if we turn this down, it should get a little more speed, but at some point it might just totally freak out. So like now you can see that the sub, maybe they'll be lower, I think. No, they're actually higher, aren't they? Let's see here. Let me just double check to make sure. I'm going to turn this way down. Probably shouldn't turn it down this much. It's probably going to just explode. No, it's going way higher. That's what it's doing. Okay. I forgot that was the other direction. So just like CFL condition, this is sort of like your material, the material equivalent of that. So actually, I didn't really see that much different. Let's see here. Can we go up with this, or is that the upper limit? Nope, that's the upper limit. So let's see where we can. Interesting. I'm surprised that we're not really seeing any difference there, but you could probably lower these substeps a little bit, maybe, but I'm guessing that this is going to get a lot less stable with the way lower substeps. But you can see that this is sped up a little bit. So there's multiple different things that are happening, right? The actual NPM solve still has 215 substeps, but now the global substeps are quite a bit lower. So we'll probably see less accuracy there, and have that, kind of trade off of what you're getting out of the sim versus a little bit of speed savings. But yeah, so anyways, that's kind of the idea there. I'm gonna try a different one here. So let's pull out a different one. Get rid of that guy. Let's see. Let's do an npm configure. Oh, there is a building collapse one there. Let's see what happens here. It's probably going to be ridiculous. I don't know how long this takes. Probably a while. Oh, it's not the full gigantic building. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, actually, it's interesting. The substeps are now lower with this one than with the other one. Let me just turn this up a little here too, just to make sure we're not going to run out of RAM. All right, let's see here. What was that Keynote building collapse sim down? VRAM must have been crazy. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm assuming it was a decent CPU or GPU. I'm not sure. I want to say it would have been a 4090 though. I don't think we have anything that's like, maybe somebody has like an A6000 or something. I'm not sure though. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Tom might know. But I do not. But right now I'm not using honestly, the GPU memory right now is not too crazy. From my dedicated, I've got 24 gigs and I'm using about 8.8. So it's nothing too crazy. I mean, it's certainly a lot of RAM, but I've used more. But yeah, so this is all simulating and doing its thing. So there's your, rock going, yes, exactly. It caches, the actual simulation caches into the system RAM. Exactly. Just the same as any other thing. It's not going to cache that to the VRAM. But yeah, so there's lots of different options here. Lots of different ways. And you can see here too, that this hopefully gives you some sense of, we have here, we just have some Vex, right? That's setting some noise, right, on these. And that's just changing, the noise of this E function, right? So what we've got here, these are the so all of these settings here are a little bit, they're from NPM, but they're a little bit not hacked, but Alex made all those locally. Gotcha. Thinks he has a 4000 series. Yeah, that sounds about right. I can't remember somebody saying that they had, maybe one or two devs have like a super high end, what do you call it? Quadro card. But yeah, 4090 would be pretty solid for this. But anyways, these are there's a couple things here. This NU and E are actually the like the technical terms for those, and we've just kind of come up with terms that people can understand. So like when you want to adjust the E property, you just come in here, so we can see that there's this E, and if you just noise that up, that's going to change the stiffness, right, of the bonds between each of these, or how stiff they are, in relation to each other, right? And then there's, I'm sure there's some decent documentation on all of these here. So let's take a look and see if this is explained a little bit more here. It might be explained in here. Let's see here. Yep, there's a lot of explanation here on this, just to kind of explain what's going on here. But my guess would also be that if we go over here and look at NPM, there should be in the overview. Let's see. Yep. That's not what I was thinking. Nope. Let's just see if this is. Should be something here. Maybe frequently asked questions might be it. There's the answer. Is it possible to use NPM at top level? So there's your answers for those. Yeah, I'm not sure if it will. Honestly, I think in those, in just the help card, I think you'll get a lot of useful things from that, as far as the actual, what those different things mean. And you'll see that as you change these to the different modes, the behaviors, they'll have different options on them. So just something to note, that those will change and there'll be some differences there. Yes, the colors did change a little bit there. I don't know why or how, or there's always conversation about that. I'm not sure what the deal is there, but yes, it did change slightly, but I don't know. Yeah, so Danny was just talking there, and he says it looks very slow, hoping it to be fast, but it's not. He just finished a building collapse project with RBD, and he thinks this won't replace RBD. And yeah, it won't. It's not meant to. There's nothing about this that's supposed to replace RBD. I think what it's meant for are for these really strange cases that where you have a lot of things working together, right? That's really the big point of where this is going to be useful. You have mud and sand and water all working together. You have maybe something like a gelatin and you need to cut it, or, rip apart stuff. Like, that is just the nature of how NPM works. It will allow you to tear and break anything. So all of these materials are kind of ready to go to be torn and cut and broken and all that kind of thing. So, so that's kind of the idea there. This is not supposed to replace RBD. That's not really the point. I know a lot of people were saying that, but that was never really the case. Now, the one thing that's really cool about this, I guess I should just say, is if we put a transform here and we rotate this, let's see here. We'll just do a rotate $F times, I don't know, 2 maybe, just for the rotate. Let's see how quick that is. Yeah, let's go a little faster. We'll go times 4. Okay, so we've got a rotation here, right, for this object. Now, the cool thing about this is that this can actually we can actually represent this as a animated VDB with this NPM collider node. So what we can do is we can actually say animated but rigid, which means that it's not deforming and the points aren't moving and stuff like that. And now we can have this whole VDB actually deform. And that will be that will now be way more efficient because we're not rebuilding that grid all the time. And that's really important. That's going to really help our speed on the GPU because we don't have to rebuild that VDB every time. So now if we do this, it's just going to see that deforming geometry and will work. So it's kind of a neat thing. If we turned this to animated deforming, which we shouldn't in this case, you'll see how much slower this gets. Well, it's got to probably compile that kernel, I guess, for that deforming animated VDB. But let's see here. Give it a second. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and what you can see here too is if you're watching that that grid, the representation of that collider, you can see how it's changing and moving. So it's not a static shape. It's kind of constantly rebuilding itself. And so you definitely get, I mean, in this case, it's probably not a huge hit, but you're going to get a hit on the performance there. So it's definitely what you want to do is animated rigid. And that will... Hey, Epoxia, welcome. Is there sort of a new meshing workflow for NPM? No, the meshing would be the same as what you would do with Flip. If you wanted to get into something that was more, if you wanted to get into something that was a bit more like how the metal, like how tearing metal works or things like that, like we saw a little bit in the launch presentations, you would need to do that probably in a more bespoke way, kind of in a custom way, because you would need to be deforming based on points and that type of thing, probably if you wanted it to work in a certain way. There's a lot of cases where, you might find there's going to be these kind of crossover points, right? Where NPM is going to be really good for this type of effect. It's going to be really good for this, but then you're like, oh, I really wish I could do this with it. And in that case, it's okay to use the older tools that are around. I think those are the things to kind of keep in mind, that this isn't a one size fits all solver type thing. So, hey, Fotis, welcome. Glad you got your installation working. I know you were talking on Discord there for a little bit. But anyway, so this is really important, this transforming collider, because if you kind of didn't notice, like, I didn't have to do anything fancy with this. It's just kind of calculating. Hey, La Pampadura, welcome. It's just kind of calculating its transformation, right, as it goes along. And that is really helpful because it's actually figuring out the transform matrix of that original object as it comes in. So it's a really cool little bit of stuff that's kind of built into this NPM collider. And more importantly, it's built into this VDB collider node, which is really nice. So this is going to be a really useful node, I think, to create colliders and things like that moving forward. So I'm not sure if anybody has any more thoughts about, NPM. I think that might do it for that. Like, as far as we can ask more questions. You can ask as many questions as you like, but like from the standpoint of just like understanding it, I think hopefully that, no. We have not talked about cops yet already. Nope. And yes, La Pampadura, there is a VDB collider, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second here. So I'm going to make another geometry node, and we're going to go in, play with a little bit of Vellum, because Vellum didn't get super highlighted in the release, but there is some cool stuff that's been added here. So let's sort of do the same thing here, maybe with Vellum. So let's do actually, let's just do this. Let's take the same stuff and we'll use those. They'll be in the same spot. So we'll do this and bring them over here. Great. So now we've got our sphere here. We've got our transformed cube. And let's do a Vellum configure grain. We'll do this on our, whoops, what did I do? The heck did I just do? I clicked something. There we go. Let's do this on the sphere. Let's hide the other objects. Points from volume. And maybe I'll make this a little smaller. Something like something like that. I'm just going to jitter the scale. And it's kind of funny now, like when you start to realize some of these things, like you're like, oh man, this takes a few seconds. And then you realize like, oh, this is actually compiling a kernel. So like when you do this too, you're also compiling an OpenCL kernel, which I think is kind of interesting. Like you don't always think of it that way. You're just like, oh, it's processing. But then when you start to realize like what it's actually doing, you're like, oh, I get what it's doing. Okay. Yeah. And Keith, you were talking about considerably slower with resolution increases. Yeah. I mean, it certainly is going to, because it's a point-based system versus it doesn't have any, well, is that true? Does it not have any grid? I can't remember if it has a grid or not that it's working on, but it is heavily point dependent. So that's where a lot of the calculations are happening, I think. So maybe Tom would know that. I don't know if it has a grid in the background that it's transferring the points to and doing anything with. But anyways, okay, so we've got our Vellum constraints grain. Let's change this a little bit. Let's calculate a uniform. Maybe we'll do this like 100 density. And cool. All right, so we've got our sphere here. Let's do it does use grids. Okay. I just wasn't sure if it was transferring back and forth like Flip does or not, but I guess it does, right? It just also really heavily relies on the points. Like there's a lot of stuff going on the point side of things where it's detecting collisions and stuff. But anyways, okay. So if we do our Vellum solver, we will now see that there is another Vellum solver minimal. So let's just grab both of those real quick. So really, they're very similar. There's nothing different here. This is just in a different mode. This is in full. There's also a minimal mode. Now, there has been a hidden minimal mode in the Vellum solver for a while, and it's what drove the brush, like the cloth brushing thing. It drives that, and it's what allows that to work kind of in fairly real time, I guess. But here we're going to go over and look at this. So let's add in a ground plane here, and there are all of our points. That's weird. Why do they look like that? Interesting. Not sure why they look like that. There we go. That was weird. All right. So we have our grains here. Let's hit play. We're going to get a kernel update. Boom. There we go. You can see we're getting pretty good speeds, right? I mean, just a bunch of scattered grains and things like that. It's nothing too crazy, but we're getting good speed out of this. So this is a mode you can see here that's really made for grains and fluid within Vellum. And it's pretty neat because not only can it do stuff like this, right, where it's going to just do kind of loose grains, but you can also do, give it an attraction weight. Maybe we'll do this at like a quarter, and we'll just go here. Got to go under the advanced, under grain collisions, turn up the attraction weight. And just make sure that this has enough so we don't recook at any point if I go up higher with this. But now that we've got smushed, clumpy things, right? And so now what if we wanted this to hit this cube right here that we had transforming? Well, okay, let's put this into the collisions, and we get an error. And the error says minimal solver mode requires collision geometry from VDB collision stops. So now if we come over here and do a VDB collider like this, drop this down, this is now going to make it happy. So right now we're in a static mode, right? So this is not... Yes, there's a little bit of everybody's feeling differently about the middle mouse thing. I tend to like it. It's definitely nice. It's different. But the one thing I really like about it is that things aren't there was a lot of weird like things would like flip around and you get all these strange like numbers that would like wrap on themselves and do a bunch of things. But anyways, yes, I would say that if you have any feedback about the middle mouse info panel and stuff that you think would make it way better, like features, feel free to put in an RFE if you have a good suggestion to make it even better. But yeah, don't just send a message that says, this is stupid, why did you do this? But anyways, yeah, so here now we have the exact same kind of setup that we had in the npm collide node. It's just it's basically everything from there has been promoted up or whatever in that other node. So here we could keep it static, right? We could change the voxel size. So maybe we want to do it like 0.05, something like that. Could play around with this. Let's see here. And you can also change what reference frame you're looking at here. Oh, so that actually would be better because we'd probably want it to be a reference frame of, because it is transforming. So maybe 0 would be even better because that's going to create a little bit of sharper edges to it because it's going to be not rotated there at all. So in that case, that's a little bit better. Could probably turn this down again. We could probably put this to 1, maybe. Yeah, maybe something like that. Anyways, so now we've got this. This is going to be static, but it will have a collider. So we could do this, and this is going to do the kernel for the collision. But the reason that this minimal solver is now part of a more prominent part of the Vellum solver is because we've kind of because this VDB collision is now part of it, right? Is now something that can actually be used. And that was a real tricky part of getting that minimal solver to move, was because you needed different collisions. I think you couldn't do surface collisions in that mode. It's like, just standard polygonal collisions. So here it's going to fall down, do its thing, and there we go. We get some material. It's really sliding. Holy cow. Maybe my density is too high. That might be the case. Let's see. I'll turn that down. Maybe that or my friction is just, maybe I should have turned those on. I don't know. Let's see. Any better? Yes? No? Turn up the friction on the ground, maybe. Turn that up a little. Maybe that'll stick a little better. Yeah, there we go. A little better. Anyways, so we've got these particles now, and now we can do the same thing with this. Obviously this is transforming, right? So it's moving. So we do the same thing here. We can go in here and say, give me animated rigid, and it should just go. Should work. So let's see. Yep, there we go. So this is kind of a cool new mode to be able to use for this. Obviously we're getting, it's not going to be blazing fast, but it's got decent playback. And if you're doing something in, with grains, and or fluid in Vellum that doesn't need to interact with anything other than that, it's a really smart thing, I think, to take advantage of. So you get some really nice performance benefits from it. So yeah, that is the new Vellum minimal solver. So Maitland was just asking there, can we assign middle mouse button to a keyboard button? I don't know. I never thought of that. Middle mouse button to a keyboard button. There is a way that you can do hotkeys. That's cool. I didn't know there was other key maps. That's nice. Okay. Well, I don't know the answer to that specifically, but one of the nice new things here is that we can go up to Windows. We can make a new panel, and we should be able to change this to, where would this be? We should be able to, actually, sorry, I'm just going to split this view here. Top and bottom. There we go. So we can actually dock these now, which is totally different. Pretty wild. So now we can actually have this docked on the side. So we've got our menu here, which I think is pretty cool. We can dock it. We can see all the different parts of it. So I think this would probably be your best bet. Would be your best bet for something like that. If you didn't have the opportunity to have it at, have a middle mouse button on a mouse where you're working or something, you could always just, you could just dock it or something like that. I think there is some performance considerations for this because it's constantly trying to update and things like that. So this would probably be Tom. Well, Tom, if you were working in, actually, that's a good point. Does this work for every context? Side effects is making me buy a vertical monitor. No, actually, I really would like to get one of those big horizontal monitors. I think would be really cool because it's like, honestly, I find a lot of vertical stuff. Like I really like my panels vertical because I feel like there tends to be a lot of stuff that way. And so having more vertical like columns in my mind would be nice, but yeah, I mean, a bigger monitor is always nice, right? But anyways, this is, I think, really nice, this new little panel here. And if we look at it, we can, let's see. Well, these are all going to be the exact same. We could turn on position visualizer there, but that's just a bunch of positions in the viewport. So that's kind of weird. And it's getting goofy because they're all sprites anyways. I just need more monitors. Yeah. Right now I have 2 monitors that I'm working on, but I'm obviously only working on the one so I can actually stream it. But yeah, oftentimes if I'm working, I'll just pull stuff over to the other monitor, like floating windows and stuff. So that's usually how I work if I need a little more room. But let's see here. Let's go back here. I should have just left that. Why did I was dumb. Let's see. We'll just make a little thing here. We'll just do maybe a grid with some scattered points. And we'll just maybe make some random attributes on those. Let's see here. I'm going to change this background to dark gray, maybe so we can see a little better. Let's just do an attribute adjust float here. We should just be able to say my attrib, and then I'm going to split this top and bottom. Change, oops. I feel like that's an error that's not in Solaris. That feels wrong. I think that might be a bug. Anyways, there we go. So what we could do here is we could set this to be something like noise, and then give it a little bit of random noise. And if we turn on my attribute, now that's going to visualize over here, right? So this is how kind of the newest way of working with this is going to be. I think it's really nice to just have these little checkboxes that you can see and understand that something is turned on and visualized in the viewport. It's still doing the exact same thing here, where it's adding in these to your scene. However, it's just nice to know that they're there, right? So like if we do this and this, you can see that now checks on as well. So there's some really nice features happening there. And that's obviously really good. Another thing that's cool too here is you can easily see the changes to attributes. So you can do this, and you can see that my attribute was changed. And if there was a grouping, let's see here, we'll just do a group node. Let's add a point group here. You can see we're adding group 1. We'll just say point group, that updates, and let's just we'll do this over points. Just randomly select some here, maybe. There. Cool. Those are in the group. Now, if we come down here, we'll just add a null in since it shouldn't be highlighting it anymore, maybe. Don't want it to highlight. Why is it highlighting still? Why is that still highlighting? Well, anyways, if you check this on, you'll see that you're going to get a little visualizer here that's going to come up. So it's going to bring up this standard visualizer that we've had before, but it's going to, set it and show you what has been selected there. And obviously you can turn that on and off. So it's obviously a nice little addition to that as well. So just some little quality of life things. There's probably lots of things that, could be changed over time with this. I think it just is a much more flexible thing for us now to be able to use. So hopefully that will see a lot of nice updates over time. So yeah, there you go. Node info panel. Kind of a nice little new thing there. Cool. And Keith was saying, I wonder why Copernicus was made horizontal. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why the reasoning for that was the way it was. To the EXR panel with all the infos. Yeah, exactly. In the render gallery, I think that's what or like the, whatever it is. I can't remember what the exact term for that is, but yeah, it's the render stats or something like that. Yeah, it's nice with that. No, I mean, I think that's the thing, is that there's nothing wrong with coloring attributes to visualize them. That's fine. Hopefully though, this will make it a lot easier, right? Because if you can just go in here and just go, I can just click on the eye and go, show me my mass. And there it is. Like, that's pretty quick, and it having to come in here and set those things up might be a little more annoying. Or, setting them by default. Obviously there was the option to click on those before, but you'd have to find them in the setup. And now it could be a little bit easier to find some of those things. So, the other thing that's nice here too, is that as you expand these, it'll make more columns and things like that for you. So show everyone the cops. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. I don't know how to use cops, so this will be really fun, Tom. You can just laugh at me. I already said at the beginning of this that I don't know how all this stuff works. So let's see. Cops play. Let's do it. Let's grab geometry. I don't know. Let's just grab a pig head maybe. And I think, let's see. What are we going to do here? Is it a cop network? Yep. And let's see here. So if we wanted to rasterize geometry, make sure that's an autosave. Yep. Let's see here. We'll do a SOP import. This should give us geometry. So, okay, we can use an internal one. We can also use an external one. So let's do that. And I'm just actually going to put a null down here and say 2 cops. Okay, so now we should have our, hello? Oh, that's weird. 2 cops. There we go. I don't know what that means, Gold, please. It must be an emoji. All right, so now let's see here. We've got our geometry rasterized. Cool. So this is obviously what we're working with here. We've got our alpha for the, let's see, we'll do UV. I think we could change this around, right? And wait, why is this erroring on me? Attribute N on input geometry, right? Because we don't have normals on it. So let's do that. Let's do normals. And that should make that happier. Cool. So I can just change this at the bottom here. There we go. So there's my UVs. This should be my normals. What's my warning? It doesn't say what the warning is. So there we go. So we've got our geometry coming in. Now what we want is to get a camera reference here. So why don't we do that? Let's grab a camera here. Actually, I can just make a camera. like so. And let's do a null here because I want to rotate it around the origin. So let's do that. $F. Do the classic, just do a little rotation here. So we get a little rotate. Let's come in here. And this hopefully will start to visualize a little bit of what is actually going on inside here. So I think what we do is we do a camera import. That looks right. So camera 1. Oops. Wrong port. And there we go. Now we're starting to see the beauty of how COPS works. And as we go around here, we can see some more of the interesting nature of what's going on. So baked into every COPS or every network, right? Every Copernicus network is going to be this reference position of where your camera is, right? So as we hit play, you can see that we're rotating around this and the position from our camera is being brought into this COPS network. So we know, so the camera knows now we're copping. So that's the real beauty of Copernicus is that we're never going to have to shoehorn 3D data into it, right? It knows where these things are living in 3D, right? Like where the cameras are, these objects, like it's already talking with that 3D information. So that's the real beautiful thing that's, I think, going to happen here. Now you can see in our little viewer here, that's really the view that we would be expecting. And we can come back to our composite view here and see the actual rendered view here. But I believe this is a bit slower to use than the scene view. So that's something interesting as well. And I'm pretty sure where they're always looking at you. Yeah, it's like it's like the those 3D things where there's like a face like cut away and the shadows make it look like they're like moving with you. I think there's like a match camera. Is that the one? No, there's like a way to move these back. Oh, okay. Like canonical. That's a big word, Tom. That's too big of a word. There we go. So now we can, now we've got it back there. Okay. So let's do set view. We'll just do a front viewport here. And that's going to feel a little bit better now. That's like in 3D viewport, but it's flat. So, I think you've been hanging around with Jeff Late too much using words like canonical. Oh, gee. That's so funny. I literally knew it was Jeff. I knew it was Jeff that was saying that's so funny. I love it. Yeah. Everybody needs to use the word canonical. So, anyways, we can see what's going on here, that this is actually what's being imported into our scene, right? So it's pretty cool. I mean, like, we're not doing anything too crazy here, but we've got our UVs that we can actually see our UV space, right? So we're able to bring all of these things in. We're rasterizing the geometry based on that thing. So Le Pompadour is saying, is it talking with the camera rays? I don't know exactly what it's doing from that standpoint, but it understands the camera space and how this image plane should relate to that space, that 3D position, right? So it understands that kind of by default. And this is just showing that these grids of pixels kind of that we're working with here don't have to just exist in a 2D space. They natively exist in a 3D space. Jason was asking, how did you change the viewing output? I just changed this to a perspective view here. So like this is actually, we're in the 3D viewport right now, right? This is actually in the 3D view. And I just set this back to its standard thing. So what I'm doing here is just this is rasterizing it into space. And then this match camera is just matching it back to a like what Tom called a canonical camera, but basically this is a camera that's looking down the z-axis and the grid of pixels is at 0, 0, 0, right? So it's kind of, if we had a different camera reference here, right? We could match it to that. So we could have another camera reference here and match this to that. So it's like, it's basically matching it to nothing right now. So that's setting it back to the origin. But anyways, now you can also look at this through the composite view. I feel like there was there's probably some talk of this becoming better in future releases as far as like how it actually is being implemented and calculating and stuff like that. But for right now, I think there is some overhead. Yeah. So I believe what it's doing, La Pampadura, is that it is using, it's actually using the Vulkan, kind of viewport setup type thing to help rasterize this geometry. If I'm not mistaken, it's using Vulkan to help with that. And you can see here we can do some different things here. We can also add a depth, it looks like. So we could do this. Now that might be, let's see here. So let's go back into the front view. Now that depth might, might be interesting. Let's see. Is it a ramp mono? Is that what we want? Nope. What is this? Range fit? Nope. What is it? Remap. There we go. Okay, so there we go. We've got our remap, and we should be able to probably figure this out here. It's mono. Yeah, we're probably not going to see too much. Oh, there we go. We're seeing a little bit of it. It's not anything too crazy, but we can see a little bit of, there we go. We'll get a little bit more going here. And there you go. You can see, we can now see the depth of this, right? So that's now a depth pass. Remap cop. I did it. Should I use a, what is the, what's yours, Tom? Should I use the glow filter on this already? Make it glow. There we go. Look at that. Oh, a statistics cop. That's interesting. Your min and max values. That's really cool. So you can all thank Tom. He made the glow. He made the glow node. Yeah, so let's see here. What could we do that's interesting with this? I'm trying to think. I think what we'd probably want to do is maybe we could make a texture and map it to the pig head. Maybe that could be kind of cool. Let's see if we can do that. All right. So we've got our edge detect by normal. Ooh, cool. All right, let's check that out. Oh, cool. That's fun. Edge detect. There's a bunch of edge detections. So let's grab the normal here. See what happens. Oh, right. I grabbed that from the wrong one. Now, is there a way, Tom, and maybe I'm thinking of this the wrong way, but is there a way to have all of these get remapped? Or maybe, just trying to think of how this would work. Maybe, no, or I'm sorry, not rematch, but match the camera. Yeah, all of them together. Tom says not right now. All right, fair enough, Tom. Fair enough. I'll let it slide. All right, let's see here. This should. Oh no, sorry, that's a remap. We want to do. I'm just doing crazy stuff now. Match camera. There we go. That's what we want. Cool. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, that is fun. That's super fun. Look at that. Getting some nice edge detection there. Could probably play around with that a little bit. Let's see here. Line thickness, line quality. Cool, cool. Blur. Ooh, that's kind of neat too. Oh, this is fun. Yeah, I like that. Very fun. Definitely do some cool stuff with this. Nice. So you can get some interesting with the SDF shapes. Yeah, I think we could do that. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks like a crayon sketch. Yeah, it does. I think what we want to do here is let's see how we could do that, because I think what we would do is do our mono to SDF, I think is what we would want to do. So we could take this. Careful bumping up the line quality. Oh, Tom, you just got to go for it sometimes, man, you know? No, I'm just going to switch over to the composite view maybe just to see these things a little quicker so I don't have to keep throwing them through the match camera. Okay, so yeah, so here we go. We've got a little mono to SDF. So this is now creating a SDF, like a 2D SDF function, right? Where we've got our edge right here, right? This is our surface. And then these are showing the inside of the, the voxels, and then the outside. So I think then what we could do is SDF maybe adjust. No, this is just going to change the ISO offset of it. So this would be the stuff that you're kind of used to, where you can kind of take your edge and erode it or dilate it. So that's kind of cool. Cool. Fun. It's really neat because it's so easy to visualize this SDF in this mode, which is really pretty interesting. You don't really get that same kind of visual feedback from using 3D SDFs in some ways, because like sometimes the values get real weird and you're like, wait, what just happened there? Why am I seeing these? Because it's only showing where it's crossing that 0 surface, right? So anyways, let's see here. I think we're going to do SDF to RGB. I want to say maybe that's it. So let's see here. Oh, here we go. Yeah. This is it. So you could do an outline. We could do shadowing, right? We could do all sorts of crazy stuff here. And we could then take, well, we need to get a render out of this, obviously, but we could take this, I guess. We'll just take this depth and let's see, we could do a, let's see. What node is this? I don't know the name. Blend, just a blend node. So let's do the foreground and the background. Let's see this blend. We should be able to, oh, right. It needs to be a, right. Yeah, it might be a multiply maybe. Let's see here. I'm not a compositor, so my apologies. Probably add is fine for now. We'll just do an add. Good enough. Like I said, I'm not a compositor. Don't pretend to play one on. It's kind of like a holy pig is what we're looking at here, right? There's our angelic pig. Okay, calm down. Let's see here. What's our shadowing? We could do. So yeah, so basically what we can do here is we can take this, the geometry of this object, right? We're putting it over to an SDF, and then we're using the SDF to RGB to then take what part of that SDF that we want and I'm kneeling, and then remap those values and things like that. Obviously, what I'm doing here is incredibly basic and silly. This isn't anything super interesting, but I think it gives you an idea for some of how these workflows go, right? You're going to do a lot of these monos to SDFs. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over and maybe just pull up this small panel here. I think that might be a little better for this since we are going left to right, like we were saying. Cool. I think that's pretty fun. Let's try to do a texture though instead and see what we can come up with here. Let's see. I'm going to get rid of these and, oh, hey, unhappy. Nobody's happy with that. Okay. All right. Didn't like my glowing pig. One moment, un momento. Now would be a good time to mention that if the pig was way too powerful. Thank you, Maitland. My yeah, I copped a little hard there. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. There you go. Yeah, Roberto. You could try Roberto too. All right, let me pull this back up. We shouldn't have really lost anything there. Cool. If you do run into anything that is easily reproducible, please put in bug reports. That would be incredibly helpful, and the team at Side Effects would be thankful for that. Obviously, there are going to be, but oh, that's so fun to look at. Look at that. You can see the position of the camera and everything. Like that's trippy, man. That's wild. I didn't have it hidden before, I think. So yeah, now it's hidden. But anyways, yeah, if you can recreate that stuff, that would be, I think everybody would be very, very thankful if you find that kind of stuff. So, okay, let's see here. How would we do that? Texture maps. Nope, that's actually just transforming the UV. What does that mean? Geometry to layer? What the heck does that do? Hello? Oh, it's for volumes. Okay, got it. It's like, what does that mean? Must be if you're importing like a terrain or something like that, or some volume of some sort. 2D volume, right? Yeah, that's pretty common. Yeah, I agree. What is this rasterized setup? I don't know what that means. All right. I'm just trying to find what we're going to use to put a texture onto the is it this project on layer? No. I don't think it's that. Sorry. Just kind of stumbling my way through here. I'm sure Tom's about to jump in and say, hey. I don't think they're... Oh, UV sample? That's what it is? That's what it is, right? All right, so if we took the UV map here, we put a texture into it, an RGBA texture. All right, so let's see if we can't do something like that. Let's do a... Let's do an SDF shape of some sort here. Oh, snail. Is it this image sample? No. Oh, that's weird. Is it just file? Yeah, file cop. Snail. All right, we can throw the snail on it. That's good enough. We'll do that. It's in here, I think, right? Yeah, there he is. Snail. There he is. We can use this. Throw this in there. And now we have the snail picture on the pig, which is just so weird. Just type in snail.pic. Can you just type that in the file name here? Really? Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Huh. That's funny. So this is going to obviously texture this on top of that. Now I am surprised that we're getting this green background, but that must just be that it's pulling one of like the default colors here. Maybe it's in the center. I don't know. Anyways, thanks to the environments, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so this is now taking our UV map and projecting a texture onto it. So let's do something. Let's grab a pattern of some type here. Let's just do like a noise or something here. Just something simple. Yeah, exactly. There's no painting in SOPs yet. Yep. Or in COPs yet. Exactly. Maybe we'll do that. And let's see here. And here we can do maybe a mono to RGBA. Oh, it's probably ramp mono, right? Can you pull a Solaris camera in? That's a great question. I think you can. Let's see. Let's do a LOP network. All right. Let's just see. No, it looks like it's just object level right now for that camera import. No, it's totally fine. I'm very. You have to import it into object first. I see. So you'd have to, right? You'd have to bring it from Solaris into the object context. I'm sure that will be coming eventually. So, not day one, unfortunately. Okay, let's come back over here. I'm just playing around with this. Let's see. Yes, I very much like Solaris. It is wonderful to work with, and it's starting to make hopefully it's getting a lot more stable, a lot more interesting for everybody. Let's see here. What am I looking for? I'm looking for changing a mono to a ramp, but I'm not. That's weird. Let's see, mono. feel like it should be something here, but I don't understand. Like you want to have a color from a ramp, right? So you'd do this, and then I don't know how you would. Yeah, I know. That's what I thought too. Sorry, like I said, you're not getting the master class here. You're just getting some goofball stumbling through this all. Well, then what the heck? Why does RGBA not work? That's so weird. Why does mono to RGBA not do give you anything? That's weird. That is a weird one. Don't understand that, but okay. All right, let's make this more interesting. We'll do something like plasma. Yeah, cool. And then can we do this? Yeah, that seems like that'll work. Cool. So now we've got that kind of thing going on here. Let's see. We could probably take this, do this and this. There we go. Yep. So now we've got that texture applied around it. Now, I don't know why the background is doing that. We might need to, let's see here. Image, texture, that's probably right. Yeah. So the interesting thing here is that the UV that we're seeing here is black there. I wonder if there's a way, because you don't really want it to, wouldn't want it to go onto the background. Can we do a preview material maybe? Is that what we want? That might be what we want. No, that's no, that's the actual material. That's right. Well, no, that could actually work. Let's see here. Hold on. So if we took this geometry here, let's see, geometry in there. Then we did the base color from this. Yeah, that's cool. That works. So that's kind of the opposite way where it's taking. Yeah, it needs to be cut out, right? Yeah, you need to use the alpha or whatever. So if we took, let's see, is there some sort of, no, it would be blend. I keep forgetting the name of that one. Plug alpha into alpha. Where? Where's there an alpha? Alpha into alpha. Oh. This? Gotcha. Got it. There we go. Yeah, it's the little details like this that are going to get goofy, right? Okay. There we go. These are the little things that you'll have to figure out over time, but that works. Perfect. Look at that. So that's what you'd want to do. You'd want to use the RGB to RGBA. That makes sense because that's going to pull the alpha channel in there. And then we're all set. But I like this too because this helps you preview it actually in the viewport itself or in the scene, which is kind of neat. And it shows the geo coming in here. So that's kind of neat. I wonder if we shouldn't. I mean, I guess this sort of is showing a little bit of the workflow here that's happening, you know, how you kind of think about it. How do we do the, let's see here. How do we get the, I love the illegal pixel. Oh yeah, you said the statistics was kind of neat because that would show you it. So let's see here. How exactly does that? How does that work? It's interesting. Where does it show you the statistics? Do you have to do this here and do this? No? Let's minimize that. Oh, there. Okay. That must be where you get the statistics, right? I think. Inspect the values. I see. I see. So if you do this and then hit I. Yep. Cool. And then we do minimum. Oh, minimum's probably not, it doesn't make sense. Probably maximum would maybe make more sense. There we go. Yeah, 7.7281. No need to hover over every pixel. Yes, the old one is in cops. Yep, exactly. Then there's an average here, so it's 1 point whatever. Cool. Anyways, that's good to know. It's good to know that that works like that. There we go. I can throw that in there. Great. That's cool. You get the transparency in here as well, which is kind of nice. Cool. Let's see. How do we get the? How do we unwrap the UV? Let's see. No, that was the other thing we were doing. UV sample. No, that was the one we looked at before. Let's see here. If you wanted to create, let's see what Tom says. If you wanted to create a texture based on the UVs, you would rasterize the pig in UV space using rasterize setup. All right, see you, Tom. So basically you would let's see here. How would we do that? So I'm guessing well, let's see. Wet map one. All right, why not? Let's jump into it. Let's download it. Open it up. Can you tell that my wife's been looking at Affinity? all the fun stuff that Adobe likes to do recently. I think people are starting to look into some of that stuff. She was can't wait for the critique. Yeah, it's terrible, Tom. What are you doing? The critique. Yes, there's 50% off Affinity, and there's a 6-month free trial. No strings attached free trial for 6 months. Pretty good. Got some smart people over there. They know that their audience is unhappy, or that their target audience is unhappy. Anyways. All right, let's look at this. Let's take a look at this wet map and see what exactly we got going on here. All right, Jimmy. Wow, we've got all circles. I don't know what FOSS is, but okay. So we've got the sweat VDB here. Okay, cool. Free open source software. Got it. Cool. All right, so let's look at this here. What do we got? Oh, I see. Rasterize. I misunderstood what Tom was saying. Now I got it. So there is a rasterize setup. And so we can take this and we can say UVs. There we go. That's easy enough. Now we're in UV space, and we can take this out. We don't need the camera reference anymore. And now we've got that. Perfect. So now we've got those. Got that. That works. Don't even need that. Then we should be able to do this. Let's see. See if that. Oh, that's not going to work. Let's do that. Yep. And we're in the same world. So that's pretty cool. So we can see now we're working with this in UV space. So what we're doing here with this rasterized setup, it looks like, is that we are basically we're basically unwrapping that, right, with this node. And so we're able to figure out what space we want to do. We could do it in position, or we could do it in UVs. And if we do it in position and do different Z up, Y up, whatever, fit from a bounding box, reference box. That's kind of cool too. You can obviously, yeah, exactly. You could bring that over into Solaris for sure. So what we could do, let's do this. Let's do UVs because that's what we would want. And we could say, we don't even need this. Bye, Tom. Tom, you're so funny. He can rest easy. I just misunderstood what you said, Tom. That was all. I didn't realize there was a rasterized setup node. I'm just a dummy. All right. So there we go. Got that. Cool. And I think what we could do is, let's just do a null here. We could say, just call this pig noise, like so. And I think if we went up here and now we did lop network. And we go inside here, we do a SOP import, we bring in our little pig. Now we could have probably done this differently, obviously. Where are we here? Cops play, 2 cops, accept. There's our pig. That's fine. We're going to do copy it into a new active layer, and I'm going to go to the Solaris desktop. We're going to switch around a little bit here. Oh, of course, that sends you to the stage. Dummy. That's right. All right, so we've got this. Let's now look at the quick surface material. Let's do this here. Great. We've got our materials. Everything's great. Let's set or create a color map. let's see here. What we want to do is we want to do, oh, I can't remember. Let's see. Yep. So we could have done this, right? And then this is going to work for our textures, right? But that's okay. Let's do instead, oh wait, yep, all we need to do is just set it to the exact path of that. So that's easy enough to do. So we can just do our, just get rid of this, just say /obj /copsplay. Actually, we don't even need this base color here. This should be good. Copnet1. Oops. Pig noise. That should be right. What? Okay, maybe this is the problem. Maybe we need to do this. Oh, yeah. You're right. You are right. Yes, I'm one step ahead of myself here. Yep. So we can just do this. Sure. Materials, quick service material. There you go. And there we are. Yes, it did work. Okay, beautiful. I was worried it wasn't going to work. It's like, what the heck? Now, what if this is like that? Does it matter? It doesn't matter. Cool. So there we go. It's working, came through. We've got our render. It's all doing its thing. And obviously we could do that for any of the maps that we might want. We could give, let's see here. Let's do a sky, physical sky. That's always a nice little addition there. Let's change the azimuth a little. And what we could do then too, obviously, is we could come back. I mean, obviously this is goofy the way I made it. It should have been right next to it. But anyways, we could come back and we could, yeah, I actually haven't played with that at all yet. Maybe I'll throw that in here and see what it does. So what we could do here as well is we could take the same thing. And actually what we could do here is we could take this mono to RGB out. We could use this and we could do sample. This is not, yep. So this here, we need to do the, like that. And then what we could do is we could actually take this out and we could just make another null here. We could grab this. Oops. We could call this like spec map or something like that. And then we could do the exact same thing here where we could come back over to Solaris. We could grab, we could go into our quick surface material. We could maybe grab our specular map here and just say the roughness map. We could do the exact same thing here and we could just grab this up. Oops. And instead of the pig noise, we'll just remove this. I mean, it probably would work just fine. We'll do spec map like that. And then if we up the roughness, we should see that there's going to be, more or less roughness in these different spots, right? And And we might want to actually invert that. So maybe the gold is the shinier part. So we could come back. I'm just going to set this as a quick mark. And we could come back here, set this as quick mark 1. And we could just do maybe an invert here. Should work. And then, nope, we can do 2. There we go. And now we should have the shiny parts as the yellow and the more matte parts as the purple. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. For third-party renders, you just export from COPS. I'm not sure, actually, Ruben. That's a good question. I want to say that these are basically just textures, so I feel like... Yeah, that probably would be the most, probably the best way to do it, I guess, right now. But I would hope that they would start to support that at some point in the not too distant future. I'm not sure, though. That's a good question. I mean, this syntax is just telling it where to look, right? Like, that's what it's doing. So it's really just about the renderer knowing what to do with that texture, right? Let's do the... So there you go. That's interesting. Redshift used to support the op syntax. So I wouldn't think that that would be too unrealistic to have. Interesting. I was thinking this might be something a bit more fun. I don't know what, let's see here. Found something odd with the quick surface material. You can't use a normal map and displacement map at the same time. Yeah, that's kind of strange. But I think the reason is probably... Yeah, I'm not sure why that would be the case exactly, but I'm sure the reasoning would be that if you had... Let's see here. Where is that? Oh yeah, bump. It's either a height or a normal. Yeah, so really it's more about the type of yeah, because I don't actually yeah, I think with the bump map like that, I think it makes sense. I'm sure there's a good reason for that. But yeah, that is kind of interesting. Yes, exactly. If you use a normal map, it disables true displacement. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so one thing to just kind of keep in mind with this too, which is kind of interesting, is that this is actually a file on disk. This is a USD file. And so this is this is basically something that's all been set and created right within just like embedded Material X in a USD file. And so with this file here, what is really nice about it is that if you go here and you're changing your settings and things like that, like say we put some what would we do here? Let's think. Let's say we just, anything we add to this, it isn't going to have to like recompile or anything like that. We can just change our parameters and they should just sort of work, right? So like if we turned on transmission and did all that kind of stuff, we're going to see these attributes change, right? That are, it's going to just basically not have to like recompile, especially if you're in the XPU mode, right? That's the biggest thing. Like when you're in Karma XPU, it would have to recompile all the time and do a bunch of different stuff. I'm not going to turn that on just because it gets a little funky with my streaming. But yeah, it's a good thing to kind of keep in mind that it's not having to do any of that stuff. Turn transmission off. Yeah. So this quick surface material is really, really nice, I think. Hey, Jamal, welcome to the stream. So that's a really good one. And another thing that I think is really cool in Solaris is that if you come into the SOP import here, let's say we did a SOP create, right? Just as a separate thing. And we wanted to place, let's grab the rubber toy, right? We wanted to bring our rubber toy in here, right? We wanted to see Roberto somewhere. And we were like, oh, where's that camera from our LOP scene, right? Like say we're here and we've put a camera, like we're getting a shot like this of the pig, right? And we want to have Roberto over here over his shoulder or something like that. Well, if we come in here, right? In the past, that was not really something that was easily done. But now, if we do this and go in here, we can actually see that there's Solaris cameras in here now. So now we can jump to that camera. We can grab Roberto. We'll just put a transform down just for good measure. And we can now see that we're looking through that exact camera. And we can make sure that, Roberto's just kind of peeking in over here, maybe just over the pig, right? And so now we know exactly where he's going to be in the scene when we do that. And yeah, it's a really nice little feature to be able to have those. It's new. It was never there before. So it's a new thing. So that's why you didn't know. But yeah, so here is, you've got these cameras that you can look through. Now there is actually a way to right here. So we could also take this SOP create over here, right? We could just say if there was like a null or something here or whatever, like maybe this is like my scene. Let's just say that, right? You've got your scene and you want to come over here. Well, you could do the same thing. You could grab this, drag this up here. And now the same thing is going to be here. My scene is going to be in there. And I pinned the panel. I know, but I pinned the panel. I don't know what that means, Jamal, but yeah, so so this is a nice new feature that we can see not only the geometry that's there now too, you can see that comes in. So if we had this hidden, you wouldn't see it, right? But if you ghost it, you'll see it in there. You could also show all objects and you'll see that as well. So you can see there's different ways of being able to see these things in here now too. So, and you can see where it's coming from, object, Solaris, my scene. And we kind of know what it is we're getting there and where exactly that's coming from in our Solaris scene. The same's true with any of these, what do you call it? SOP nodes. Like if you have like a SOP. Oh, he pins the scene view. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, interesting. So when you go in here from import from SOPs, you can see that the same thing would happen here where you would go in your SOP modify and you can see these cameras and things like that. You could also have it come from a different part of your stage, but this is actually what this is actually doing is it's actually there is a hidden edited prims right here that it's actually pulling from. So that's why it says it that way. You could have it look at a different location as well. But so yeah, that is a really nice new feature, I think, to be able to look through. Yes, it doesn't work the other way. That's correct. Doesn't work from object context within Solaris. We've had a way to do that, right? We've had that way to be able to bring those cameras in there, but there wasn't ever a way to do it into SOPs, like when you were editing things. And that was a real annoyance, I think, for a lot of people, because you'd be going into this SOP create and you'd be like, well, okay, interesting. We got a couple there. But anyways, you'd get into these sections and that would, you'd be jumping back and forth and all that kind of stuff. And it was kind of a pain. I am going to reopen that. I'm getting close kind of to the 2 hour mark here. So I think I might be wrapping this up sort of soon. But I actually just want to make sure that file's in a decent spot so that I can save it and people can look at it. Not that there's anything that interesting in there, but you can at least poke at it if you want. Yes. So Anki, you're exactly right. But that has been in there, I think, for a few versions now. And so we've been able to do that. We've been able to import our cameras from LOPs back into SOPs, or into object, but bringing it into the SOP world when we were kind of in that intermediate thing was, that's great, Maitland. I'm glad you caught it as well. Yeah. The splash screen is cool. I like it. At first I was kind of like, oh, it's a little weird. Like it's a little like hard to see what it is exactly, but oh, you know what? I didn't turn, I don't have my autosave on yet, but that's okay. Yeah, didn't have autosave on, but there was a crash file. Let's see, open crash file. Yes, there we go. Cool. Hooray. We'll just save that as first look, accept, overwrite. Cool. So I don't know if there's any other questions or anything like that. I think we kind of got through a lot of the fun little things. We found a couple little bits and pieces along the way. Oh, where can we learn more about the new Apex character stuff? I've been investigating that personally. Yeah, Linux is way more stable. That is very true. The new Apex character stuff. I think, yeah, let's just look at that real quick. I think we can maybe take a look at that a little bit and talk about what's going on here. So, we'll just do this. Let's see here. I'm going to go back to my other mode here. Yep. Let's just look at this. So, yeah, so the Apex stuff is a continuation really of what we were working on, what was released before, right? It is a little, yeah, so let's just kind of talk about what goes into an Apex character, right? So this is our test Cappy, right? If we do a joint deform, Linux is the way. Tom, thought you left. Where'd you go? What are you doing? So if we put down a joint deform, we can see that Cappy walks, right? And the reason that he can walk is because we have these 3 streams. They're all driving this joint deformation, right? So if we look at our null, throw a null down here and just kind of look at what we've got. We've obviously got our skin, but then we also have our capture pose and our animated pose, right? So there's our animated character. So what Apex is the Apex character workflow is really, what it's really going to be doing is the kin effect side of things, like weighting, creating skeletons, all of that kind of stuff is all going to sort of stay the same. That's not really changing at all. What is changing is the way that we're dealing with the rig logic and building these rigs and then animating them, right? So that's really what's changing. So what you would do instead is you would do let me see if I can do this right. We would do a pack folder. We would drop these in. And what I'm going to do is just call these base because that is the default. That's like the default name. So we're going to do base and change this to a shape, change this to a skeleton. I think that's going to be right. And we also, that's right. We also have, shoot, I can't remember if we can. bring in our animate, how we bring in the animation now that I'm thinking of it. But let's just do this. This will be fine for right now. So here's our capybara. And what this is doing, let's see here if I can get that window. Let's see if I can grab a window real quick to show this. Inspectors. No, it's not that. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Sorry. Trying to remember this. I really thought it was this. Oh, it is. Duh. Okay. Sorry. It was pinned. I'm not thinking straight. Anyways, so what this is doing, this packed folder is actually creating these packed geometries, right? So we have multiple packed geometries. And so it's actually creating this like hierarchical packing of what we're looking at. So you could also look at joints through this. No problem, Anki. Well, thanks for joining us. So what we're doing is we're packing these different geometries into streams so we can use them. So I'm just going to minimize that. And let me think here. What are the next steps here? We have a... I think it's this. Let's see here. FK transform. Yep. Nope, now I broke it. Okay. There it is. So, yep, there we go. We've got FK for all these things, right? So that's cool. And then if we do another auto rig component, connect this in, and we're going to set this to be, let's see here. This is going to be, it's going to be a bone deform. Yep. So now we've got a character that is technically working in Apex, right? So what we're doing is we're creating the rig logic here. Oh, Carlos, yeah, welcome. So basically the idea with Apex is that we're creating these different packed geometries, right? So there's a lot more to this, obviously, but this is like the most basic thing, right? Is that you take your geometries, you pack them into these different, this kind of structure, and then you start working with those, right? So you can see now we've added a few more things. So this node here specifically, so right now we just had a skeleton and a shape. This added our base rig and our guide skeleton. And so now these each along the way are adding in new functionality to our rig, our base rig. So this is now creating the bone deformation, the ability to have bone deformation, right? And this is adding in the ability to do FK, right, from each of these joints. So we've added in to our rig logic, to the logic of how this rig works, we've added FK in. So now every joint has FK. Basically, we've just changed. So right now we've only promoted the rotation. You can also add transformation, but we'll just leave rotation as it is for right now. And so then you do this, and we do let's see, what is it? Apex. Is it this? No, it is. I think it's this scene, add character. So now we're creating an Apex scene with this character. So that should, we'll just call it Cappy. And so now, if we look at that same panel, which I think I closed it, we'll do unpin this and say rig tree. Now we have our character, our Cappy character, is kind of the top of this hierarchy, right? So we put all these things inside of it, and we have this now scene graph here, right? And so we're starting to kind of make this little organized setup, right, of pieces that are allowing us to be able to work on this character. And now I think if I put down a scene, or if I just put down an, oops, what's happening here? Why'd that happen? If I just do an animate, I think this should work. Should be able to do this here, have his upper arm. Could do this, we could key and do all that kind of stuff, and it's all going to work right from that node, right? So we can take this, we can, do all of the posing, all of this kind of stuff, and this is an Apex character now. Now we can do all sorts of different things with this, right? We could add controls, we could add all sorts of different little elements to this, right? That would make this easier to work with, right? So we could, but now you can see there's our animation, and it's added some animation into this here too, right? And we have the animation layers, and that's going to be where all that stuff gets added in too. All our layers get stored in this, packed information, right? We're packing all this data together. So basically this is the way that you would set up, this obviously a very simple character. But this is sort of the idea of rigging. And if you take a look at some of those things that are in the content library, you'll see some really interesting things, like where you can tag different parts of your incoming character and then say, okay, if things are tagged as FK, you can add this rig component here. That's the FK rig component. You can see that under here, I think under source, you would do that. And you would use tags to kind of say which joints are going to get FK. And then maybe if you wanted IK, like for the arms, you would maybe set up your arm and say that's going to have IK. So put an IK tag on that. And then when it goes through your rig logic, it'll add that in for as many arms as it finds. So that's really the beauty of this, is that it doesn't really matter how many arms or legs or joints that need FK. You don't have to individually specify them. You can kind of just create the logic of how your rig is going to work and then feed that in at the very top with some tags and things like that. In fact, what you would do is you'd actually make a guide skeleton up here and put that into this packed folder as well as a guide skeleton. And yeah, exactly. You still, Maitland, you were saying that exactly right. You still start by capturing geometry via kin effects. So in this case, Cappy's already captured. But if you were doing something like, like a simple character, or even just like a, really simple object or something like that, you could capture it using skeletons. Use your skeleton node, use your joint capture, proximity, or whatever it might be, and then you could feed that in the exact same way, right? So in this case, this is obviously a little bit more of a complicated scenario, but what you could also do is you could take maybe like a tube here, and let's just make this like this, make it a little taller, maybe give it a bunch of rows so it can do its thing. And then maybe we do a skeleton from this. Interesting. Let's just give this a couple joints like so. Cool. Oh, that's weird. Did not mean for that to happen. Oh, there's a... That's what I wanted. Let's see here. Just undo that. Let's see if that works. Nope, that's going to the surface. So we want it to be normal based, maybe? Huh. I thought there was a mode where we could do that, or be in the center. That's okay. Anyways, doesn't really matter. This isn't really a very real setup. Let's see, tweak. Nope. H is what we want. Sorry. Modify mode. There we go. H. There we go. Just There we go. Sorry. I am not a rigger by any stretch of the imagination. There we go. That's fine. Okay, so we've got our tube, we've got our skeleton, right? So we could do the exact same thing with this. And we could do a joint capture proximity here, rest geometry, capture pose. There we go. Let's see, we'll do something like that. And then here we could do the almost the exact same thing, right? We could just take this whole thing, move this over. We'll cut these. Oops. No, that doesn't go in there. It goes like that and like that. And again, we're just going to call this base, and this type, we're going to just, sorry, that's actually a shape. And this one we'll call base. This can be a skeleton. Let's come down here. Not sure why that's giving an error like that. Post must be a type character. That's weird. But this should work. Let's see. Let's see here. Yep, there we go. We've got it captured. So, I mean, it's not great. It's just goofy, but it works. Yeah, masterclass for NPM for sure. I'm not sure why this is erroring, actually. This seems like it shouldn't be erroring. Oh, maybe it should have a prim name or something, but that's okay. No big deal. It's working. So basically this is the idea, right? So this is the idea of how these characters, this kind of character method of working, like all of the original. Yeah, no, I completely understand. We've actually had some internal conversations about that there needs to be some stuff that's a little bit more easing you in, where you're not getting into like, oh, hey, like, see how I didn't even bring up the Apex graph at all? Like, Apex is really cool from like a graph standpoint, but like, it's crazy. Like, let's see what the Apex graph of this looks like. Like, we didn't even talk about that. I didn't even bring it up once, right? Network view. Let's see here. Oh, we got unpin. There we go. So this is just this one component, I believe. Yep. Let's see here. I'm pretty sure that's everything that's happening in here. I could be wrong. I don't really know off the top of my head. I am not an Apex like guru or anything. Tom knows way more about Apex than I do. But like, you can see how crazy this is, right? But like, I don't have to go in and do any of this stuff, right? Like, this is other stuff that I don't really need to deal with, right? There's a lot of stuff happening in here that I didn't set up. Apex set it up for me, right? Like the Apex graph kind of like there's stuff in here that's built that's then building itself based on the things that I'm selecting. So there's a lot of really deep stuff you can get into, but from just a really straightforward standpoint, like you can just get in and start messing with stuff. So yeah, that's a little bit of playing around. It's nothing, it's nothing too exciting, but hopefully that gives you a little sense of maybe how this works. And really the idea is you're making these separate, like whereas you could pack a geometry before, and it was just kind of, was it a packed geometry or wasn't it? They all kind of lived in the same exact spot. Now we're getting to the point where we can have rig Roberto. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Make them dance. Now you can do stuff where you can kind of work with these packed folders and make it so that so if we take this floating panel again and we grab our animation rig tree, we can see that we can kind of start to create these hierarchies of these packed geometries. And yeah, it's weird to say that the animation is a geometry and that the rig is a geometry and that the skeleton, all these other things are geometries. Like, okay, that's a little weird, but just understanding that you're kind of saving this in a hierarchy that you can kind of control a bit more. That's one of the new big things with this Apex workflow. So anyways, hopefully that gives you a little sense of what it's doing, but Apex isn't just rigging, don't forget. So it's other things. Yeah, lots more to come, I'm sure, on that. I've been going into this and learning a bit more about it. So, I might do a little talk about this at some point. Maybe I'll have Michael Goldfarb on again. He's kind of our education team's, he's the character expert on our team. So, he's starting to kind of, we're both seeing this as a good point to really start talking about what Apex is, because it feels like it's becoming a bit more mature. There's a lot more of these auto rig components. If you look here, there's a lot more of these things. There's look at constraints that you can automatically pull in, IK constraints, spine constraints, spline, all these different things. Even the wrinkle deformers in there, which, like, you just think about it, you're adding the wrinkle deformer to the rig, right? Like, it's a different way of thinking, it's an interesting thing, but you can do that. You might want to do it with I think there's a groom deform as well. So, and now that we USD, everything is a primitive. Exactly. But yeah, so it's an interesting way to look at some of these things. And I think the UI, they've started to make this a little bit nicer, where you can, like, before it was just like a list of parameters. Now it's like kind of got some organization. So it's starting to kind of mature a little bit more over time. And the scene animate stuff is really, really cool. Animation layers are in there now too. So you can get into all that stuff. Actually, I can't remember. How do you get into that? Is it under... Is it under one of these? Let's see here. Maybe it's here. New paint tab, type, animation. Yeah, the animation layers. So now we have animation layers that we can add on top of each other and do all this different stuff. So it's pretty cool. You can do a lot with it, and it's getting quite a bit more mature and has a lot more features to it now too. So cool. Well, I guess that's probably a good enough spot as any to end here, since we've gotten some Apex and NPM and some Vellum and Solaris and a bunch of different stuff. So hopefully that kind of got everybody interested, excited about 20.5. I know I've been looking forward to getting to kind of share all this stuff with you guys, and we'll be diving into it more deeply over the next few, months, weeks, whatever. So that is, I think, where we will wrap things up for the evening. But thank you, everybody, for coming out and joining us on the chat tonight. Thanks for sticking around while I was poking and prodding at cops and trying to figure out everything in there. Thankfully, Tom was around to help me through that. And it was really fun to get to hear kind of everybody's thoughts and see what they're excited about. And I hope you guys all have some great fun playing around with Houdini as well. And so... I think for the next few weeks, I'm going to be off. I'm going to be at SIGGRAPH, and taking a little vacation in the Denver area before that. So I will be away for the next few weeks. So, I guess this will be a little see in a little bit from me, but yeah, looking forward to seeing and hearing what everybody's getting up to with all these new tools and things to play with. And yeah, should be a fun one to get back when I'm after being away for a few weeks. So thank you all so much for being a part of this, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your evening or day or whatever time it might be, because I forget that there's time zones. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.